Welcome, welcome to the Mind Fuck Podcast. Yay! Welcome once again, my friend. Thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with me. I'm really, truly honored you're here. My name is Wonu Alishe, and sometimes I do go by Amazing Soul. ah, welcome once again to the Mindfuck Podcast. FCK stands for fun, compassion, and kindness. We have a tradition on the show. Before we start today's episode, we have a tradition that we do where I put together a list that I call reminders to being human. The intention behind reading that list every time on the show is to remind myself and also to remind you on your journey. All right. Reminders to being human. Have fun along the journey. Show yourself compassion. Be kind to others. Being complex and being simple can hold true in the same breath. Stay curious. Hold space for pauses. Hold space for not knowing. Never underestimate the power of silence. Nature has a lot of wisdom. Pay attention. There is power in we than I. If nothing else makes sense, come back to love. Pain is our greatest teacher. And the very last one, never underestimate your ripple of existence. Welcome once again. Now let's get into the fun part of the show. Okay. I want to start today with something that sounds simple, but it's actually one of the hardest things I've had to practice in my life. Compassion for the human experience. I mean, not just compassion for other people. I mean, compassion for being human. Because if I'm being honest, for a long time, I had compassion for everyone except myself. I mean, I could understand why someone else was struggling. I could hold space for someone else's pain. I could say, man, they're really doing the best they can. But when it came to my life, I had standards, I had expectations. I mean, I had timelines for my growth. And if I did not meet those timelines, I didn't get compassion for myself. I gave myself more pressure. Let me take you back to 2022, a period in my life where I was transitioning out of the army medically, right? And my lower back had been building for years up until that point. I mean, sleep was barely happening. I was having about 2 to 4 hours of sleep every night. And my nervous system felt like it was constantly bracing. And I remember lying awake that one night around like 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, exhausted but wired. And the thoughts that came through my brain on a loop was, Wanu, you've been through harder things. I mean, Wanu, other people have it worse. And those thoughts, there was no compassion in that voice. There was performance, there was comparison, there was constant internal pressure. But what I didn't realize then was this: I wasn't just struggling with pain. Ooh, I was struggling with being human. Yes, that's the truth. And compassion for the human experience, it starts with something very uncomfortable. It starts with fully accepting that being human is messy. Being human is not linear, it's not efficient, and it's not always wise. It's not always regulated. I mean, being human means you can know better and still not do better. Being human means you can love someone and still hurt them. Being human means you can heal in one area and still react in another. Being human means you can be strong and still need help. For most of my life, I didn't want that to be true. I wanted clarity, I wanted control, I wanted black and white. But being human lives in the gray. You see, when I was younger, growing up in Lagos, Nigeria, there was a lot of structure. I mean, a lot of rules, a lot of because I said so, a lot of fiscal discipline was normalized. Compliance was expected. And as a child, I was defiant. I mean, I questioned things, I pushed back, and trust me, that didn't always go well. So a part of me learned as a child, it is safer to suppress. A part of me learned it is safer to conform. A part of me learned it's safer not to feel too much. But suppression doesn't disappear. No, it doesn't work that way. It actually stores. It stores in your chest, in your stomach, in your throat. It stores in your nervous system. And as an adult, that stored charge came out as anger, as tension, as hypervigilance. And for a long time, I judged that part of myself. I mean, I would tell myself, why am I so reactive to this thing? Why can't I just let things go? And there was no compassion for the fact that my nervous system had adapted exactly the way it needed to survive. And that's the shift. Compassion is not excusing behavior. Compassion, it's understanding the nervous system underneath it. One of the most pivotal moments in my life was a conversation I had with a mentor back in 2022, 23. I mean, I was angry, I was overwhelmed. I felt like life had been unfair. And he said something that hit me hard. He said, take full responsibility for your life. At first, I was furious. I mean, it felt dismissive, it felt harsh, it felt like he didn't understand what I had been through. But over time, I realized something. Responsibility without compassion becomes self-punishment. Compassion without responsibility becomes avoidance. Both of them are necessary. Compassion for the human experience means I can take responsibility for my patterns without shaming myself for having them. Let's talk about something real for a second. There were nights in my life when I would wake up after 2 hours of sleep and I will feel the rage in my body. Not at anyone specific, just rage. I mean, rage at the pain, the lower back, rage at exhaustion of my body, and also rage at the fact that I couldn't fix this thing in my life. My old pattern would have been force sleep, judge myself, scroll on social media, and emotionally eat. Instead, I started practicing something small. I mean, if I wake up around that time, I would sit up on my bed and I would say internally, I am simply noticing the sensation in my chest. Not trying to calm it, not trying to analyze it, not trying to make it spiritual, just noticing. Sometimes for 90 seconds, sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for 30 seconds. For me, that was compassion in action. Not fixing, not suppressing, staying. Just simply staying with the sensation. And staying is way harder than reacting. It's really hard to stay. You see, compassion for the human experience also means accepting paradox. Woo! You see, my friend, life is simple. Being human is complicated as fuck. And both of those statements are true. Your body knows how to breathe. Your heart knows how to beat. Your nervous system knows how to protect you. That's simple, right? But your history, your conditioning, your inner child, your cultural context, ooh, now that is complex. That is layered. Compassion says, of course, this is layered. Of course, this is nuanced. Of course, this is going to take time, right? There was a season in my life when I thought compassion meant being soft. Now, I see compassion way differently. Compassion is strength with understanding. That is compassion. Compassion is saying, yes, I overreacted. And I want to understand what part of me felt unsafe. That is compassion. Compassion is saying, yes, I people pleased. And I want to understand when that pattern started. That is compassion. Compassion is saying, yes, I shut down. And I want to understand what my system was protecting. That, my friend, is compassion. It's investigative without being accusatory, without accusing yourself. It's curious without being critical of your behavior. That is compassion. Now, let's zoom out for a moment. Every human being you interact with is operating from a nervous system shaped by experiences you cannot see. I mean, the tone of their childhood, the unpredictability or stability of love, the rules in their home, the trauma in their lineage. And so are you. I mean, compassion does not mean tolerating harmful behavior. No, it's not a hall pass. But it does mean recognizing most people are doing the best they can with the level of awareness and regulation they currently have. That's not a bad thing. That's not a good thing either. It's just being human. There was a moment recently in my life when I caught myself slipping into an old pattern. I mean, I had overcommitted. I was tired as fuck and my body felt tight. And I felt the familiar urge to push through. I mean, what I always do in my old programming, to perform, to prove, to not disappoint. But once I started to feel that sensation, instead of forcing myself, right? In that moment, I paused and I asked myself, Wonu, what would 2% more compassion look like right now? Not 100%, not a complete life overhaul, just 2%. And for me, that day, 2% compassion meant canceling one thing, taking a nap, let my body reset. It might sound small, but small is sustainable. And compassion has to be sustainable. Compassion for the human experience also includes joy. It includes laughing at yourself. About a week ago, I took a glass blowing class and I was so proud of the heart that I made. I had so much fun with that experience, and I also learned something about myself in the process. That too is being human. Because I will say this, we're not just trauma stories, we're not just healing projects. I mean, we're awkward, we are creative, we're evolving. That's who we are as human beings. And compassion says, you're allowed to enjoy this human experience. You're allowed to be new at things. You're allowed to try and not be perfect. That's what being human is, right? If you're listening to this, my friend, and you're in a hard season in your life, I mean, if you're going through chronic pain, relationship tension, identity shifts, sleep issues, I mean, if you have old habits resurfacing, I get it. I totally get it, my friend. And I want to offer you something very grounded. Your nervous system adapted for a reason, right? If you're overthinking, it probably once kept you safe. If you're hyper independent, it probably once protected you. If you're avoidant, it probably once reduced conflict in your life. And compassion in this moment is to ask, what is this protecting? Not what's wrong with me. Do you see, my friend? That single shift can change everything in your life. I also want to say something very clearly here today. Compassion is not indulgence. No, it's not. Compassion is not, this is just how I am. No, no, no. Compassion is, this is how I adapted in the past, and I can gently evolve. That is power. That is transformative. You see, being human means you will contradict yourself. That's what being human means. Being human means you would grow and regress. Being human means you will feel enlightened one day and reactive the next. Being human means you will say something wise and then get triggered by something small. That doesn't mean you're failing. No. It means your nervous system is still learning safety. And safety, my friend, is not built through pressure. Safety is built through repetition. Safety is built through micro moments. Safety is staying with yourself. That is being human. You see, if I could go back to the nights where I wake up at 3 a.m. in 2022, lying awake in pain, I wouldn't give myself a strategy. No, I would give myself compassion. I would say to myself, of course this is hard for you, Wonu. Of course your body is tired, Wonu. Of course you will feel angry, Wonu. Of course you're not weak, Wonu. You're overwhelmed. That's what I would tell that version of myself in 2022. And that alone would have softened something. You see, compassion for the human experience is not abstract. Compassion for the human experience looks like this: pausing instead of reacting, noticing instead of judging, taking responsibility without self attack, allowing paradox, choosing curiosity over criticism. It is slow, it is subtle, it is powerful though. And here is something I have learned deeply over the years on my journey: total self acceptance. It's not the end of growth. It's actually the foundation of a safe, steady growth. You see, when your nervous system feels understood instead of attacked, it changes more willingly. When you feel seen instead of shamed, you soften. And when you soften, you regulate. When you regulate, you start to choose differently. Do you see? So I'll leave you with a few gentle reflections for today. Ask yourself, Where are you being hard on yourself right now? Ask yourself, what part of you is still trying to protect you? Ask yourself, what would 2% more compassion look like today? Not next year, not when you're healed and grow. Today, this moment. Because being human is not a flaw, it's an experience. And the more compassion you bring to that experience, the less you fight yourself. And the more peace becomes available to you. And I'll say this, it's not because life is perfect. No, far from it. But because you have stopped demanding perfection from your humanity. As always, my friend, I want to thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank you for being human. Sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Thank you.